Joining us now on the show, filmmaker Fred Vogel. Fred, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Fred, I've seen August Underground a couple times. So the big question that leaps to mind is, what the hell's wrong with you?
Well, you know what? I was born with what I call a macabre gene. And it's just kind of, I've always been attracted to the dark side of things. I've loved horror movies. My first experience with horror movies was Frankenstein back when I was about 5. And, but I just always loved, scary Halloween time. There's something always attracted me to, just to the dark side of things. But even though as much as I love life, I've also think about, my own death and things like that. So I kind of was drawn to, horror movies and, things like that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I can tell that you've been drawn to the dark a little bit, but I think the really cool thing about August Underground is it feels so raw and so real. So I'm fascinated on how you constructed the film. And did you write a full script? I mean, did you block rehearsal? How did you go about
it? It had to be blocked. Well, the script was pretty much, just like an outline. It wasn't like 120 pages or anything like that. It was pretty much just an outline. And, each scene had to be very choreographed, especially if there was an effect or something like that going on. So, we rehearsed a lot, and, I wanted there to be, the 360 degrees of movement with the camera. So it was really important just to get everything that we wanted in the rehearsal, and then, go right in and just bang out the scene. And pretty much everything was done in like one or two takes, never anything more than that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Was there anything like in particular you really had to get creative with, and major challenges from a visual or audio standpoint? I mean, there's some great. I'm an audio guy, and I love some of the audio sound effects in there. Was there anything that you really had a major challenge with?
Just making it look real. I think that was the thing. I'm very much into linear filmmaking. But when telling the story in August Underground, wanted to do something a little different to where, I wanted people to actually think they were watching a home video. So you kind of have to throw everything out the door of linear filmmaking when you're making a movie like August Underground. And at the time, there wasn't many, I don't even think found footage was really like a term. It was just a cinema verite style or documentary style. And, my influences at the time were films like Cannibal Holocaust or Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Man Bites Dog, Last House on Dead End Street, films like that. So I just wanted to take that to the next level. And I remember when I was casting the movie, I would show actors the home invasion scene of Henry and be like, this is what I'm trying to do. So if I can make a feature that has the same kind of impact as that, 10 minutes in Henry, I'll have a winner. So that was really like the goal behind it.
Well, you did. You did. And I stumbled upon the film just going through all these lists of the most shocking films ever made. And it seemed like August Underground was on every damn list. So is that mission accomplished in your mind?
Yeah, absolutely. As a filmmaker, especially August Underground was my first movie. And at the time I was teaching, and I shot the movie on the weekends. And, when it was all put together and I started showing, my close friends, everybody kind of laughs at it and just didn't get it. They're like, "Ooh, Fred, you're gross." There wasn't the impact that I was hoping that it would have until I started sending the movie out for reviews to people that didn't know who I was. So it really took, the movie getting out there for people for it to affect people. It's just that when you show a movie to your close friends or your family, they saw Fred in the movie. They didn't see the character of the big guy, So it was a whole different animal once people started seeing the movie, and that's when I knew that it had the effect. And for August Underground's going to turn 15 years old next year, so for people to even still talk about a little movie like this, it's just really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the type of movie where the lower budget actually is a benefit to what you're trying to accomplish. I couldn't imagine someone with a bigger budget being able to pull this off. But that said, you always like to have some extra funds. Would have you done anything differently if you did have some extra money?
Oh, I would probably put more money towards, effect stuff, maybe do bigger gags. But at the time, I was at like the top of my game as an effects artist. I was doing effects all the time, teaching at the school, and August Underground was before my business partner Jeremy Cruz got involved. He came in and we've been friends through college, so he came in and did like my first test when I was making August Underground to see if this kind of style would work. Because, I didn't know if this was going to work, like shooting it like this realistic, cinema verite kind of style. So I had Jeremy come in, and it was easy for me to have an effects guy there, rigging up, some of the gags. And then it let me focus on being, like the director and actor. But, Jeremy ended up having to go do his day job. He was a puppeteer at the time, and I had to pretty much do most of the effects by myself or with some help of some of my students at the Savini School. So,
did you give him extra credit?
What's that?
I said, did you give him extra credit?
Yeah, I mean, it was their first time, being on a movie set. Like that's when when I was teaching them, it was like, starting to learn etiquette from the film sets that I've been on. But August Underground was just so raw. It was pretty much just like coming to my house. And all right, get the girl in makeup, and let's get down and shoot. There wasn't like big huge crews or anything like that. The movie was made with pretty much just me and a cameraman and maybe an effects person there just to help out. So
very cool. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit too, Fred. Critics will often say they review a film based on what the filmmaker was trying to accomplish, and obviously, I think that's BS in regards to horror, because I think August Underground. I don't want to overpraise it, but August Underground is a perfect film, I think, for what you set out to accomplish. Why do you think critics are so hesitant to praise like horror and the darker side of cinema?
It's always been that way. America is still a very, conservative country. Even though horror has been the money-making, genre of all the genres for studios, and it's the way to admit it. Mm-hmm. Think about it. Anytime a great horror movie comes out, it makes studio lots of money, but still it never gets the respect or the accolades that it deserves. And me as a filmmaker, I love, as much as like I love comedies and I love dramas and documentaries and stuff like that, I want to make horror movies, and I wanted to make, a horror movie that kind of stuck out from everything that we've seen. And at the time, back in 2000, 2001, there really wasn't, the Blair Witch Project was like this first little independent movie that people started talking about, and it had a great marketing campaign behind it. Mm. So, that really influenced me. It was like, wow, these guys did it, they made this movie for nothing, but they had really great marketing. I'm like, well, that's what I can do. Like, I know I can make a movie for nothing. I have all the equipment. I'm going to be in it. I can do everything myself. I just have to come up with a great way to market the movie. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to drop off tapes all over the country and have the police come and find me. But it was, it was 2001, and America was on really high alert with anthrax and 9/11 and all that shit. So it just wasn't in my best interest to drop tapes off. Like, if I would have done it 5 years earlier, it would have been great. I would have been on Entertainment Tonight and fooled the world and showing people like is this a real snuff film? Like, wow. That was the goal. In 2001 I would have been locked up for a while, and it just wasn't important to me to do that. And it kind of, it actually worked in my benefit, because people still think it's real and people still question it, August Underground's authenticity, just because on how real it looks. And I just think that's a testament to the movie and, the performances from all around.
Oh, absolutely. If Charlie Sheen sees it, he's calling the FBI. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, was there a specific special effect that you did either in August Underground or any of your work that you really just love, that you sit back and just like, I love that effect?
There's so many. and like working with Jeremy Cruz, who's been my best friend and my business partner forever. He's such a talented individual, and, us coming up with effects and gore gags is really just something that, since I'm an effects guy too, it really helps out in the filmmaking process because I know how effects work. And it's easy for me to direct effects when I have Jeremy there too. So, but, and at the last scene in August Underground's Mortem is a really impressive scene where the girl's it's actually my wife, hanging upside down, and she's fully nude, and we slit her throat, and you see the blood coming out, and it's all done in one take. And I always thought that was really impressive because, she's fully nude and you don't see any of the stuff, and it just looks so real, like draining a pig's blood. So I really love that. I love a lot of the stuff from the Redson Tower that Jeremy did. And the ending of Cella Turcica is one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. So I really love that as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of brutal stuff in August Underground, and I'm thinking hammer to the head. That was pretty cringeworthy as well. And that ties into the whole ending too, and just I really love that ending. Was that something that you had from the start, or did you just kind of come up with it while you were making it?
Well, I knew that I just had a videotape just ends. Like when you're recording, it just ends. So I wanted it. Of course, when people say like August Underground doesn't have a plot, doesn't have any structure, they just don't know movies, because it really does. And there's definitely arc in the movies, and especially in the trilogy. When you look at all three movies together as one, there's certainly a character study and an arc behind everything. But using the hammer and the ending, that was just something that we really wanted to. We slowed down the movie with the two hookers, where they were like dancing and making out in the living room, and then the end scene, like coming down the stairs back into hell. Like the movie starts off with my character going and taking the cameraman downstairs, and then the ending is the cameraman coming downstairs and then me coming up, and then somebody almost kind of getting away from me. So it's full circle. It's just that a lot of people just don't understand. They just don't grasp that because they're just so thrown off visually, because they're like, what the fuck am I watching? I'm watching this home video. Is it real? How long has it been on? Has it been on 2 hours? I feel like I've been watching this thing for 2 hours. August Underground is really, it's really different. And that's why I just think, I think that's why we're still talking about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A group of people who didn't get it were Canadians, right? I know you've told the story probably a million times, but I want to hear it again. What happened in Canada with August Underground?
Well, I have a really great fan base in Canada. Canada and Rue Morgue magazine was the first mainstream media outlet to mention me and to mention August Underground. And I was a guest up at their show, the Festival of Fear. And we were getting ready to release August Underground in the 2-disc special edition DVD. So I'm going up to Canada, and I ended up getting red flagged at the border crossing in. We were crossing in really late at night. Toe tag was all up, in the wee hours designing a Cinnabite costume for Clive Barker. Clive Barker was also a guest at the show. So we wanted to do this really awesome toe tag version of a Cinnabite. So Jeremy and Shelby and Christy, they were all working so hard getting this together, and I drove. And once we got to Canada, we came in and they did a background check, and I'm already on like a list because of August Underground being banned in countries. So, anytime your name pops up when you're crossing the border, they want to like question you or ask you questions or whatever. So they pulled us over. They ended up going through the car, and they found all these movies, and they opened up one of the movies and they watched it, and what they thought they were watching was something real. So they arrested me on 18 obscenity laws that I broke, and they kind of just put me into this holding tank because part of them knew, I think, that it was a movie, but they have to protect themselves, and I also think they just didn't want that kind of filth coming into their country. But after 16 hours or whatever, I was locked in. I was put in this cell. They actually let me go, but they wouldn't let me take any of my merchandise into Canada. So I went to the festival with nothing. So
Oh man,
that's my story.
it's heartbreaking.
Those polite Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is, believe it or not, like the one officer who, was kind of like my guy that would check in on me and stuff like that, or let me go out a cigarette at the time. He was really cool, and he got it. He knew that I was. These are all special effects, and I'm not really killing people.
So, last question here, being that Halloween is right around the corner. Now, you mentioned a couple of movies that you were inspired by while making or thinking about August Underground. If you had to just kind of give us maybe 2 or 3 movies that people should watch around Halloween time, what would they be?
Ooh, well, you should be watching Halloween, of course, the original Halloween. But if you want to see something nice and nice and gross, I definitely. I want to say Bill Lustig's Maniac is one of my favorites to watch around Halloween. And, oh man, I'm going to do something like a little obscure. I'm going to go with The Candy Snatchers. I really love that movie. It's not much of a mask movie or anything like that, but it's more of a roughy exploitation film. And it's definitely one that I like to watch during Halloween time.
It's awesome.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, Fred, that's all we have. What are you working on now? Anything?
Yeah, I'm actually working on my first small studio movie. It's called Pittsburgh Body Removal. It's going to be my first movie outside of the toe tag realm a little bit because it's a lot more money and union and SAG and all that stuff. So it's kind of like my first venture out towards the mainstream. So I've been dealing with that for the past year and a half. A lot of hoops for me to jump through because I definitely want my creative control of my film and things like that. When you're dealing with other people's money, they kind of want to try to strip as much as they can from you. But I got really great producers that are that want to see me make my next movie with them, and I'm really excited about it. So
awesome, man!
Very cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Fred, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us.
Hey, no problem.
All right. Take care.
Take care, man. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
All right, Dan. What'd you think of Fred?
Yeah, he's a great guy. He was a great guy to talk to. Really knows his horror stuff. I'm glad that he gave us some cool recommendations for movies to watch during this time of year. I think it's going to be kind of a theme for the people that we talk to during this time period. Ask them what kind of movies that they really get jazzed up to watch during this time of year. It was really awesome to hear some of his influences for August Underground. Fascinating about the Savini connection.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Great special effects. And Fred's good at it. He's got
a gift. There's no doubt.
It's a terrifying gift, and I look forward to seeing his new movie. He said he's got a little bit more of a budget, so he's working with a studio that's different from what he's accustomed to. So we'll see how far he's allowed to push the envelope there. But hey, I mean, if Eli Roth can make his movies, then Fred Vogel should be able to make his movies.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I would assume that those producers hired Fred Vogel knowing what they were getting.
You would hope so.
Yeah.
He's you would hope that they're not having him do Honey, I Shrunk the Kids Part 5.
Right. Fred,
my Stuart Gordon connection there.
You go. They're already talking to Fred. Maybe we can make this PG-13, Fred.
Yeah. It's like the Mortal Kombat edit from the video games.
Oh,
can their blood be gray instead of red?
Oh God.
That's for the Nintendo people. For the Sega people, you had the red blood. I think you still had to do an unlock code, but you still had the red blood in Sega.
Yes. That was the one reason to have a Genesis.
Very cool guy. I wish Fred all the luck in the world in his next movie and future endeavors in special effects, because it's truly a gift that he's got. I love it. August Underground people, check it out. Please do.
Yes.